Se- Senator Husted.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Dr. Means, thanks for being here today. I'm going to try to get through pesticides and mental health for our children, if I could. I want to thank you for what you're trying to do to raise awareness about healthy eating, healthy foods. And since your nomination, and though I've had a lot of questions from farmers in the agriculture community in Ohio about your comments on pesticides. And you will not regulate pesticides in your role, but your views will impact American consumers and what they believe about what's healthy and good for them. What is a pesticide? I would just put a little poster up here, and why do we use them? Because this is the kind of thing we try to prevent. This is an earworm. This is the kind of thing that destroys our crops in all across the country. Corn, wheat, soybeans, fruit, and vegetables. If we fail to use proper pesticides, it will drive down yields of 20 to 50%, even more for fruits and vegetables, the very things we want people to eat more of, which will restrict the supply chain, make food less accessible and more expensive if we can't have proper crop yields and use more land, more resources, et cetera. And so given all those facts and given what the concerns are, please just share your views on pesticides for what they mean to the average consumer of food in our grocery stores.
Thank you, Senator Husted.
Folks, something very important just happened in Washington that a lot of mainstream media outlets are barely talking about. During a hearing covered by Forbes Breaking News, Senator Jon Husted questioned Dr. Casey Means, who has been nominated as Surgeon General under Donald Trump. And the conversation touched on two issues that affect every American family: our food and our children's mental health. And let me tell you, patriots, these issues matter more than ever, because what we eat, how we farm, and how our children grow up in a world dominated by technology will determine the future of this country. So today we're going to break down exactly what was said, what it means, and why Americans should be paying attention.
Senator Husted.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Dr. Means, thanks for being here today. I'm going to try to get through pesticides and mental health for our children, if I could. I want to thank you for what you're trying to do to raise awareness about healthy eating, healthy foods. And since your nomination, and though I've had a lot of questions from farmers in the agriculture community in Ohio about your comments on pesticides. And you will not regulate pesticides in your role, but your views will impact American consumers and what they believe about what's healthy and good for them. What is a pesticide? I would just put a little poster up here, and why do we use them? Because this is the kind of thing we try to prevent. This is an earworm. This is the kind of thing that destroys our crops in all across the country. Corn, wheat, soybeans, fruit, and vegetables. If we fail to use proper pesticides, it will drive down yields of 20 to 50%, even more for fruits and vegetables, the very things we want people to eat more of, which will restrict the supply chain, make food less accessible and more expensive if we can't have proper crop yields and use more land, more resources, et cetera. And so given all those facts and given what the concerns are, please just share your views on pesticides for what they mean to the average consumer of food in our grocery stores.
Thank you, Senator Husted. And thank you so much for meeting with me prior to this hearing. This is a very complex issue. And what I would just want to start by saying is that I have the utmost respect for the American farmer. And I think just like doctors, farmers are in an impossible situation right now, where we have developed an agriculture system that is dependent on chemicals that are toxic to have an affordable food supply. And that's not good for farmers, it's not good for consumers, it's a complex issue. And obviously changing anything overnight would be devastating to the American farmer and the American consumer. With that said, this administration is committed to understanding what's in our food and how it's affecting our bodies and how cumulative exposures to various chemicals in our environment is affecting us. And that is a core, profound, long-term, deep passion of mine as someone who thinks about how our environments and the system that we live in is affecting our health in the midst of this monumental chronic disease epidemic. And certainly pesticides, herbicides, insecticides is something we need to look into as part of that cumulative exposure. So it's a complex issue. It's very sensitive for farmers and for American consumers, especially mothers, because we want to have the safest water and the safest, food supply in terms of what's on it. But I understand the nuance of these issues and that changes need to be made thoughtfully, with full respect for American farmers and the constraints that they're under. And also, eventually, we are going to need to move towards a more sustainable way of growing our food that decreases our reliance on toxic chemicals that are hurting human health. I think there are incredible movements happening within the administration. Like I mentioned, the $700 million going towards regenerative agriculture transitions, precision agriculture, and the private sector collaboration that may be using technology to help be more precise with pesticide spraying. And I think those are all positive developments. But at the end of the day, we do need to understand how these chemicals are affecting our bodies and work towards creating the safest food system.
I have one more, three quick questions for you. It's on mental health of our children. And I'm going to ask all three of them to give you a chance to respond. Do you believe that smartphones and social media are negatively impacting the health of America's children? What age should a child have access to a smartphone and social media, and what would you recommend? Would you recommend banning smartphones in America's schools?
I believe that the research is showing that the impact of social media on children is profound and negative, and we need to take great efforts to protect children from premature use of technology that is associated with mental health issues and depression, and it's a strong concern of mine.
And at what age does the research say that we should have, give child access to a smartphone?
I don't have the answer to that question. I don't know if that an exact number is known, but I think in light of how quickly things are moving with technology and social media and how rapidly things are changing, we need to, as parents, communities, schools, and a government, exert an abundance of caution and be very proactive about making sure we're protecting children and their mental health.
I hope you'll spend some time talking about this issue in your role as Surgeon General, because if you go to a school that's banned smartphones, they will tell you it has a profound difference on the mental health and the educational environment in those schools. So thank you. For being here.
First, let's talk about pesticides. Now, when Senator Husted asked the question, he did something that I think is incredibly important. He brought the perspective of American farmers into the conversation. Too often in Washington, policies get discussed by people who have never set foot on a farm. But farmers understand something fundamental. Without crop protection, you don't get food. Husted explained that pests like earworms can absolutely devastate crops: corn, soybeans, wheat, fruits, vegetables, the very foods Americans rely on. And he made a critical point. Without pesticides, crop yields could drop 20 to 50% or more. Think about that for a second. That means asterisk less food, asterisk higher grocery prices, asterisk supply chain shortages, asterisk and farmers losing their livelihoods. And let's be honest, Americans are already feeling the pain at the grocery store. Inflation has hit families hard. So protecting our food supply is not some abstract policy debate. It's about feeding the nation. Now, Dr. Casey Means responded carefully, and I think it's important to listen to what she actually said. She acknowledged something that conservatives and farmers already know. American farmers are in a very difficult position. They're expected to feed the country affordably, but they're also navigating complicated environmental and health concerns. She said our current agricultural system depends heavily on chemical pesticides, herbicides, and insecticides. And while those chemicals help keep food affordable, there are questions about long-term health impacts from chemical exposure. Now, this is where the conversation gets interesting, because the goal shouldn't be to attack farmers. And thankfully, she made that clear. Instead, she talked about researching how cumulative exposure to chemicals might affect human health. And that's something most Americans can agree on. We want safe food, but we also want strong farms. Let's not forget something here. American farmers are some of the most productive and responsible farmers in the world. Our agricultural system feeds not only our own country, but millions of people around the globe. When politicians or activists attack agriculture without understanding it, they risk destabilizing the entire food system. And that's why this conversation has to be balanced. We cannot destroy American farming in the name of ideology. At the same time, innovation is always welcome. Dr. Means talked about potential solutions like regenerative agriculture, precision farming technology, smarter pesticide application, and research into environmental exposure. Those are ideas worth discussing, because if we can grow food more efficiently and safely, that's good for everyone. But the hearing didn't stop at agriculture. Senator Husted then pivoted to something every parent in America is worried about: children and technology, specifically smartphones and social media. And this is where the conversation hit a nerve. He asked 3 direct questions. 1. Are smartphones harming children's mental health? 2. At what age should kids have access to smartphones and social media? 3. Should schools consider banning smartphones? These are questions parents everywhere are asking, because the reality is childhood today looks very different than it did even 20 years ago. Dr. Means responded with a warning that many experts are beginning to agree on. Research increasingly shows that early social media exposure can have negative effects on kids' mental health. We're talking about anxiety, depression, social pressure, constant comparison, addiction to screens. Children today are growing up in an environment where they're constantly connected. But constant connection doesn't necessarily mean healthy connection. And as a society, we need to ask tough questions. Are we protecting our kids enough? Or are we handing them technology before they're ready? One of the most interesting parts of the exchange came when Senator Husted mentioned something that's happening across the country. Schools that have banned smartphones during the school day are reporting major improvements. Teachers say students focus better. Students interact with each other more. Bullying decreases. Academic performance improves. And mental health improves. Think about that. Sometimes the simplest solution is also the most effective. Create spaces where kids can learn, socialize, and grow without constant digital distraction. Now here's something refreshing. This hearing wasn't about political theatrics. It was about practical concerns: food supply, public health, children's well-being. And those issues should never be partisan, because no matter where you fall politically, every American wants safe food, strong farms, healthy kids, in a future that's better than the past. So why does this hearing matter? Because it highlights 2 major challenges America faces moving forward. First, how we feed our nation responsibly. And second, how we protect our children in the digital age. Both issues require thoughtful leadership. They require respect for the people who keep this country running: farmers, parents, teachers, and workers. And they require policies grounded in reality, not ideology. Here's the bottom line. America's strength comes from its people, from farmers growing our food, from parents raising strong families, from communities working together to solve problems. The discussions happening in Washington should always remember that, because when policy respects the American people, good things happen. So what do you think? Should schools ban smartphones? Should America invest more in safer agricultural technology? And how do we balance protecting public health while supporting American farmers? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who cares about the future of this country. Because informed citizens are the backbone of a strong nation. And together, we'll keep fighting for the values that make America great.